Hi, good afternoon. Will Donald Trump save the free world? Welcome to my live stream. It's the John Gaunt Show with you for about half an hour or so. Feel free to comment. Will he save the free world? Well, I think he will. I think he made a lot of mistakes last time, but I think he's learned how to drain the swamp. And do you know what? Keir Starmer could learn a lot from him as well. And we could make Britain great again if we follow Donald's example. Do you agree with me or not? Let's discuss it. Toodly Pip says, yes, Trump will make the free world, save the free world if they don't get in the way of him. He's my first contributor today. Thank you very much indeed. That was on YouTube. If you want to comment on Facebook, Twitter, or on YouTube, just send your comments in, and if I see them, I'll read them out. So, Donald Trump says he's going to make America great again. He reckons he's learned from the first time. Now, the first time, he had too many politicos in there, equivalent really to our civil service. So the civil service got in the way. He's learned his lesson. Look at the people he's brought in now. Kennedy Jr., fantastic ideas on health. Look at the guy he's put in charge of the military. He doesn't wear a frock. That makes a big change for the American military, doesn't it? And he's going to kick out all this woke diversity nonsense. And you know what? I agree with him. There's a need for diversity, of course. There's a need to make sure everyone has an equal opportunity. But after that, it's got to be a meritocracy. Too much rainbow laces in every aspect of our lives here in the UK and indeed in the States. Let me tell you why it's important Trump succeeds this time. He has to succeed because a strong president of the United States of America means a strong America. A strong America means a strong world, Western world. And we have never been under threat so much since the Second World War. We've got Russia on one side with their aggression. We've got China. We've even had to ban TikTok because we're worried about what they're up to. What an absolute farce that is. Some dopey bird dancing with a cat. That's not a problem. But you know where I'm coming from on this. And also, we need a strong world. We need strong leadership. People say to me, how can you vote for him? He's a convicted felon. It's like, get a life. Do you think you get to be the president of the United States of America and be squeaky clean? Of course not. Look at the Kennedys themselves. For goodness sake, get a grip. I want a leader, not a saint. And Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, he's a leader. But you see, the opposition's already started to him. I watched Laura Kuenssberg this morning on the BBC. I know, I couldn't sleep. She almost put me to sleep. What a disgrace that programme was this morning. She kept sneering every time she said Trump. She didn't call him Mr. Trump. She didn't say Donald Trump. It was Trump. She wouldn't have done that with Biden, who was senile when he got the job. This absolute snobbery and bias on the BBC has got to be stopped. Do you agree with me? And it's the same in America. Then she started asking people questions about Trump. Well, can he be relied upon? Can he do this? Can he do that? Never mentioning the fact once that when Trump was last in power, there weren't any wars. There weren't any real conflicts. Why? Because he doesn't like war. He likes to get deals done. You can't get deals done when you're blasting hell out of each other. He's a pragmatist. He's a businessman. He's a multimillionaire. I know he was born with a whole canteen of silver spoons, cutlery in his mouth, but he's got the common touch. And I think he will make America great again. But the first thing you have to do to make any country, well, just to make it a country, is you have to have strong borders, which is why he says he's going to rebuild the wall. It's going to be a beautiful wall. Everyone objected to that before. And do you remember when there was all that controversy about him deporting people? Then it came out that Barack Obama had deported more people than Trump had. There's just this whole lefty woke propaganda against Trump. That's what it is. But what do they want? What's their alternative? They had Biden, who they're now admitting was senile, even before we all realized, although I think I realized from day one, and they were going to replace him with Kamala Harris, the laughing hyena, the cackling hyena. Have you seen the way she's reacted since she lost? We're now seeing her real side. God, we swerved a big one there. Imagine if she had got elected, but we don't have to, because Donald Trump got elected by a massive, massive majority, whichever way you look at it. He's what the American people want. So, Laura, on the BBC, try and be balanced, try and be informed, try and educate, entertain even, right? And inform people rather than pushing your lefty agenda. And who would you have instead? And Donald Trump this time's done a clever thing. He's kind of brought together a government or a cabinet of all the talents. Kennedy in charge of reforming the food industry, which is disgusting in that country. And Big Pharma with PH. Yeah, he wants to change things. He wants to go to get rid of ultra-processed foods. He wants to stop the idea of using rapeseed as well, but to stop using that horrible stuff which they crush out of corn oil, as an artificial sweetener in things like Coca-Cola. I applaud him. They want the military to be tough, and they want their borders to be secure. Trump is saying he's going to sign 100 presidential edicts on day one. And one of those is he's going to start booting out people who shouldn't be in America. And that's a massive task. We think we've got problems here. Go to New Mexico and Arizona. I went there when I went across Route 66. It's a massive problem. It's a massive problem. But he's going to do it. He's going to do it. Mind you, we can't even stop them coming across the channel. And they're in they're not top hotels, but 4-star hotels all over Britain. How can we afford this? And how can we afford it from a security point of view, Mr. Starmer, not vetting these people? It's not as if none of them have created any crime. I'm certainly not saying every migrant is a criminal, but my goodness, we don't know who we're letting in. Let's take some views from you, please. Gwen Ford says, spot on, Gaunty. And that's on Twitter. Thank you. Bess Black says, hi, John. Hi. He who has not sinned, we all make errors. Well, I was talking about Trump. You're right. That's kind of where I am. He'll definitely not free the world. Only Jesus Christ can do that. Yeah, all right, Mary. I know it's Sunday. If that's your religious belief, that's fine. But we're talking about reality here, love. We're talking about the real world, which isn't pleasant. Although Jesus Christ would probably have a real problem trying to stop the worldwide refugee, economic migrant, asylum seekers, whatever you want to call them, problem. But Donald says you need strong borders, and he's going to back that up with strong laws. He's also telling any new arrivals in America, if you kill a police officer or a member of the United States Armed Forces, you're going to swing. You're going to go to Old Sparky. You're not going to just get deported. You're going to get killed. He's right. He's right. Whereas what do? We put them in prison like Sarah Sharif's dad for 44 years. What's the point of that? Don't forget, it's the John Gaunt Show. If you wish to comment, feel free. You can do it on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Tell all your mates that I'm here. You can also watch this on a replay. I also turn it into a podcast, so if you're out walking the dog, you can listen again. And I'm going to be doing them every day in the next few weeks. We're really upping the number, and soon we'll be taking calls. We'll be having live guests as well. So make sure you join my YouTube channel, John Gaunt TV. So you need strong borders. You need to deport criminals, and they are criminals. I don't care if they're fleeing persecution. If they've got in the back door or across the channel, they're criminals. And if they've destroyed their paperwork, they're definitely criminals. And we need to deal with them quite harshly. Quite harshly. Do you not agree with me? And surely, if you're going to be a strong leader, you have to have strong punishments for a whole range of crimes. We need less understanding and more condemning from our leaders. Whereas what have we got? Now, let's compare and contrast again. What have we got? When the Stop Oil protesters start gluing their hands to the pavements and disrupting London, what do? Our coppers with their rainbow laces, they go skateboarding next to the pink boat that is holding up commerce in our great capital city. No. Well, these idiots who are throwing paint over priceless masterpieces. No, it's got to stop. I understand your protest. I understand what you're worried about. I'm worried about the state of our oceans, and I'm trying to do my little bit. But I don't see why we should give you a soft ride. And in America, that's not going to happen any longer either. Trump is coming, and he's going to be tough. The BBC and people like Laura don't like that idea because their uber-liberal world is going to be shattered. But you see, they don't mind. They don't mind saying, oh, be like this and being loftier and uber-liberal because they don't live amongst all this. They're the ones who haven't got their kids being able to get a school place, a doctor's appointment, a dental appointment because they pay. They've got money. They can live above it as long as they can get their tofu burger delivered by Deliveroo by some immigrant who's clearly, again, working in the so-called black economy. They ain't bothered. They are not bothered. And that's why I condemn the whole of the political class. What about Sadiq Khan the other week? Mayor of our greatest city. He gets questioned about whether the so-called child grooming gangs in London, and he tries to get the woman to say child rape gang so that he can accuse her of racism. Absolutely abysmal. Then when he gets asked a question about why did you want 6 tickets to go and see Taylor Swift worth over £3,000, he hasn't got an answer. Now there's an inquiry. What is it with lefty politicians? Sadiq Khan doesn't strike me as a Taylor Swift fan, does he you? But nor did Keir Starmer. But he went 2 or 3 times. He has given the money back. But it's like all aboard for the freebies. It's a disgrace. An absolute disgrace. And Keir Starmer, our supreme leader, has still not explained why he wanted the tickets. Still not explained why he wanted the Taylor Swift tickets, why he took the free suits off Lord Ali, why he had the £2,500 spectacles. He hasn't also, but we might know about it on Monday, the 20th, hasn't explained to us when he knew about the ricin plot or this suspect, the Rwandan, when he knew who he was and he knew he was about to be a man. Why didn't he tell us? Now, that sort of nonsense was not going to happen with Trump, is it? You just know it's not. He's not going to just condemn people. He's still going to give them a fair trial. But we can't be pussyfooting around people because of their ethnicity. And don't get me wrong. That's obviously what's behind this child grooming thing. You'd have to be a moron not to be able to add 2 and 2 together. Where's it mostly happened? Labour cities like Coventry. Deputy leader of Coventry Council, a Muslim guy, he says, I don't know anything about it. We haven't got those gangs here. Never happened. It's rubbish. He's lying. I'm going to say it as it is. Jess Phillips, she was intimidated during the election. There's stories today about a guy in Oldham who went to the mosque to thank them for block voting for him. This has got to stop. This is not equality. Equality is making sure everyone gets a vote, and if they can't speak the language, helping them to vote. But it's not going to collect all the ballot papers. I mean, again, there's parallels with America. America wants to bring in voter ID, which we've kind of done already now. Why would anyone object to that? But you see, Labour brought in the voter ID or agreed with it with the Tories, but they're against the blocking of postal voting. Let's be clear. Unless you're in the armed forces or severely disabled, you should turn up at the bloody voting booth the same as the rest of us. That's democracy. If you vote in advance, this is what happened with Trump last time. Trump thought he was going to win again in that second election because on the day there were so many people turning up. What he forgot was the Democrats had organised it so that most people had done a postal vote. Well, that's eerily reminiscent of certain Labour councils, Coventry included, where it's clear they've organised the voting. Do you want that in our country? I don't. I think it's wrong. One man, one woman, one vote. That's the basis of our democracy. And that's the way it should be. What time's the inauguration? UK time. Haven't you got Google? Artrea, that's your name. Mary Higgins, you are absolutely right, John. We need Trump here. I can't wait for the inauguration, whatever it's called tomorrow. I can't wait. I just can't wait. Politics is great at the moment. There's so many ups and downs and twists and turns, but everything you say is right. It drives me mad. Thank you for your comments. Keep tuning in. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Paul Smith Fox on Twitter or X says, if Trump wants to save the West, his first job is to get rid of two-tier Keir and Sir Sadiq Khan for services against London. That was me not arguing. I agree with you completely. How the hell did Sadiq Khan get knighted? Well, we know, don't we? But he got knighted. He's wrecked. He's destroyed the greatest capital city in the world with his Ulis and his attacks on ordinary Londoners. That's my view. So I'm saying Starmer could learn from Donald Trump and he could make Britain great again. He won't because he's got a bigger ego, believe this or not, than Donald himself. But see, Donald is arrogant. He does say, I'm great. Look, it's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be a beautiful war. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to solve Ukraine. I'm going to solve Israel. Well, he's not big-headed. It's arrogant. He believes in himself. And this morning, it's Sunday, by the way, when I'm putting out this live show, but you might be watching it on replay or listening on replay. It looks like he's solved, for the moment at least, Israel and the situation in Gaza with those filthy terrorists, Hamas. Today, Laura Kunsberg said, yes, it looks like there's peace just towards the end of the program. She might have been under pressure. I'll give her a bit of latitude. She said, between Israel and Gaza. Israel wasn't at war with Gaza. What are you on about? Israel reacted to what Hamas did. But she treated Gaza as if everybody in Gaza is a Hamas supporter. If you said that from the right, or if you were an Israeli, she'd have you up on a charge. This is the hypocrisy of the uber left who infest the BBC. Absolutely infest it. And all of our major institutions. Oh, Gaunty, back on the live media. Great. Good luck, chum, says Andrew Lloyd. Andrew, tell all your friends. I'm a late arrival. Have I missed much, John, says Graham. Not too much, but if I was you, you can always listen on replay. If you want to make a comment, feel free. So where do we go next? So making America great again, Donald Trump is basically saying you've got to put Americans first. What's wrong with that? He's the democratically elected president of the United States. So he basically wants American jobs for American people. There's been this big dispute over there about which immigrants should they let in. It's all around this visa thing. I mean, I think he's slightly wrong, or part of his camp's wrong on that. I think we should bring in the best, the brightest and the best, wherever they're from. That's what I think. I'm in favour of well-controlled, managed migration. We also need some lower-skilled people to do some of the other jobs, but primarily the brightest and the best. But what they're saying in the States is, no. This is people like Steve Bannon, give the jobs to Americans. Well, yes, if they can do the job, and certainly give incentives to employers to do the job. But I agree with Trump when he goes on to say, if you're going to take your car factory to Japan, are you listening, James Dyson, or your vacuum cleaner business to Singapore? When you then come to bring back that stuff into our country, your home country, you're going to pay for it. I think that's absolutely right. That's protecting American jobs, protecting the cost of living of ordinary Americans. This is why Donald Trump gets voted in. This is why he gets masses of Hispanic people and black people. Because, of course, they all like to make out Donald is a racist. I don't think he's a racist at all. Well, only in the sense of he's pro-American to the detriment of everybody else. Well, I want a leader like that. I want a leader who says it's Britain first. British jobs for British people. That's not racist. That's not fascist. It's good, plain, common sense. And that's why you've got to deport criminals. Pakistan, do you know they get one of the biggest amounts of overseas aid from us? Yeah, Pakistan, right? Why can't they take back the paedophiles who have committed the crimes here, who have committed the crimes and done the sentence? There's still people who abused young girls in Rotherham and Rochdale and other northern towns still living in the same street they were living in when they committed the offence. Wrong. Deport them. And all this nonsense about, oh, we can't deport them to Jamaica. He's bisexual all of a sudden, right? He's bisexual. They're swinging the lead. Deport them. But especially to Pakistan, any country that we give masses, millions of pounds to, if they don't want to play by our rules, bang, cut the foreign aid. It's dead simple. And that's exactly what Donald Trump would do. Exactly. And then, of course, let's move on to the next thing. It's the economy, stupid. What do most Americans want to do? When I first used to go to America, it was so cheap. Excuse me. You go into their supermarkets, dirt cheap. It's so expensive now. And Americans are getting fed up of that. The cost of living. It's like us. This lousy Labour government, sorry, I forgot their full title, they've cut the winter fuel allowance, right? They've attacked farmers, and I'm glad to see Morrison's and M&S and other big supermarkets now backing the farmers, but they've cut our farmers whilst they're giving loads of foreign aid to farmers in some godforsaken country. How does that add up? Answer, it doesn't add up. And the British people are fed up of being the piggy bank for the world. Just like I'm fed up of our National Health Service, clue is in the title, national, being the World Health Service. We can't afford to give medical care left, right and centre. No. Until you've paid in, you shouldn't be able to pull out. Unless, of course, you're a British citizen and your mum and dad have paid their taxes. Why should you be able to just land in our country and get everything done? Answer, you shouldn't. When my dad lay in a corridor near Heathrow Airport where he collapsed, right? And he banged his head and he went into a coma. They couldn't find him a bed for 3 days. But then I got told there were people there because it was so close to Heathrow coming in from Africa, from war-torn countries with like a week or 2 week old gun injuries. And because they collapsed as they got off the plane, they got treated before my old man. Now, my old man was not a liberal by any stretch of the imagination. There's a surprise. But he's not saying I want more treatment. He should have got his treatment before them. But no, it's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. And that's got to change. British people first. It's not racist to want that. The same with America. So you've got to get the economy right so people have got more money in their pocket. That's obvious. Smaller taxation and therefore smaller state. But what's Keir Starmer done? Oh, I'm going to take a penny, was it a 10p? I can't remember what it was now, off a pint. But I don't know about you lads. I was in the boozer last night, had a couple of early doors after the football. Listen, the beer's more expensive. It's not because the landlord's, profiteering. He's having to pay extra NI. He's having to pay everything, more money out. So with one hand he giveth, well, no, it wasn't he, was it? It's Rachel Thieves. She giveth, and with the other hand she taketh away, but she taketh away more. Do you see what I'm saying? And how can it's just impossible? You go shopping now, even in this country, the price of things are through the roof. Everything's gone up in price. And then you've got the supermarkets doing this con trick. I mean, good if you can take advantage of it. You know, Tesco's, if you've got a club card, you can get a bottle of gin for £5 cheaper. But why isn't it just cheaper anyway? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Taxation. We're being taxed to death. And in America, that's what's happening. And Trump's saying less tax, more money in your pocket, and more you sorting yourself out. That's what we all want, isn't it? Giovanni Martinelli, 80% of Gazans are Hamas supporters, unfortunately. Well, that may well be true, Giovanni, but it's not a country. Hamas is not a country, which is what Laura Kuenssberg said this morning, that Israel was at war with Gaza. No, they're not. They haven't had any elections there because Hamas have not allowed them because they're a bunch of foul, despotic monsters. Got to be careful with your language. I'm made up Trump is going to be in charge for the next 4 years. He's a strong leader, John, who will not have time for the woke nonsense or leaders like Starmer who submit to it. Seasider Mark, thank you for your comments on YouTube. You're right, Mark. And this is where it's going to get really interesting. He wants, this is Starmer, he's appointed Lord Mandelson. How's he got rehabilitated? Mandelson, the mortgage fiddler. Every time they mention Tommy, they can't help but say, and he fiddled his mortgage, right? It's the double standards of the BBC. Like when they brought up Mandelson today, they should have said, oh, yeah, and he's got a record for mortgage fiddling. Because what he did was he got money off Jeffrey Robinson and didn't declare it. I mean, I don't even think it's a major offence, personally, right? But if we're going to be fair, Laura, let's be fair. Let's be impartial. So mortgage fiddler Peter Mandelson, sacked twice by the government because he also had that run-in with the passports. Do you remember? He's now going to be the ambassador to Washington, according to two-tier Keir. Unfortunately for two-tier, sources are telling me, and I know somebody very close to Donald Trump, you can guess who it is, a good old friend of mine, he's basically told me there ain't no way that Trump is going to allow Mandelson to be the US ambassador. He's just not going to allow it, right? Now, by hook or by crook, he may use that as a negotiating tool to get other concessions from us, although what concessions from us he wants, I don't know. But Mandelson isn't going to be it. And anyway, why would you put Mandelson in there just to wind up the most powerful man in the world? You wouldn't, would you? If you had half a brain, if you'd ever worked in business, if you'd ever had any experience apart from working for the public sector, being the director of public prosecutions. Oh, don't bring that up, John. We might have to mention Jimmy Savile. We might have to mention the gangs up north and why perhaps they don't want to have an inquiry at the moment. We might have to talk about the Labour politician who wanted to slit people's throats, who's in court tomorrow as well, the 20th. The same day that the lad who's alleged to have killed those 3 girls and injured fatally, horrendously injured those other little girls at the Taylor Swift dance class. We might have to mention the background to that as well, mightn't we? Two-tier Keir. So two-tier Keir is doing that to Donald when really he should be doing this, saying, Donald, can we work together? They could be our biggest trading partner. He would rather cozy up to the bankrupt, failing EU, right, than up to Donald Trump. He needs his head examining. Our future is with the United States of America. Do you agree? Now, if anything I'm saying you find offensive or wrong, get in touch with me on YouTube. It's John Gaunt TV. Send me a message. And if you like what I'm saying, please get the video and forward it. And if you're on Twitter or Facebook, please share and like it. And also, please, if you're on YouTube, watching me on YouTube now, can you subscribe? It doesn't cost anything. It just gets my numbers up and get all your mates to watch it as well. Because at the moment, I'm probably the only person who's speaking the bloody truth. And I'm not scared of speaking the truth. Where was I up to then? Mandelson. So they shouldn't be trying to get him to do that job. Trump will save the world, definitely. We've got to believe in ourselves, and he gives us hope. That's a very interesting point, Rosette22 on YouTube. I think what's happening with Trump, he has brought back a kind of optimism. I know that when he first got elected, the first time there was a lot of cynicism. And then, of course, then they elected Biden. But now I think people are thinking he could solve it. And in a way, he's done that this morning in the so-called war between Israel and Gaza, according to the impartial BBC. She didn't like it. She had a face like a smack backside. because it had all fallen through because Hamas, the terrorist organization, had said they wouldn't name the 3 people they were going to release straight away. So it was all off. And then all those nutcases from Hamas are riding around in diggers. I don't know what they're in diggers, big sort of mechanical diggers with machine guns, because they love a bit of shooting in the air, don't they? Illiterate, thick morons, right? They're terrorists. I'm allowed to slag off terrorists, aren't I? We're still living in the free world. They're not democratic. They haven't had an election in 14 years. Anyway, where was I up to? So, but then Donald Trump's obviously exerted pressure both on Israel and on Hamas, and he solved it. He solved that. Well, no one's going to say it's forever, but for the next 42 days, this 6-week period, the ceasefire holds. Let's hope we are on the verge of solving it. But let's be honest, the only way we're going to really solve it is if we take out Iran. Because Hamas, I'll just remind Laura again, is not a country. Gaza's not a country, right? Hamas are in charge in Gaza because they're terrorist thugs backed by Iran. We need to sort out Iran. And you know the man who will do that? Donald Trump. Likewise, Ukraine. How much more money do we need to give to Ukraine, right, before we realise it's a waste of time? Trump will come in, and I bet you this is the deal he'll strike. He'll say to Zelensky, you've lost that land, tough shit, right? You've lost it. Let's draw a line there, right? I'm going to keep backing you, and I'll help your economy, but I'm not giving you any more weapons. Then he goes across and speaks to Putin and says to Putin, behave yourself now. You've done enough. We don't want conflict with you. Back off. You can keep what you've got. However, Mr. Putin, they're joining NATO. That will shut up Putin, because if they became members of NATO, which is what they wanted originally, and don't forget the EU caused most of this problem, because the EU wanted to expand and wanted to bring in, Ukraine. So that's why Russia got so angry. But now we'll have to compromise. Let Ukraine join NATO. And here's another idea that I agree with Trump on. He says all the European nations should pay their fair share of NATO. Why should somebody in the middle of Midwest America, be paying more to protect and fund the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? Why should most of that come from America? He's right, isn't he? He is right. And I believe in a strong NATO, although I think it's a bit of a busted flush. A bit like the United Nations and who, But anyway, leave it out on one side. And so, moving on from there, we need to invest in Trump. Lammy is now trying to get back in with him after calling him a moron. What did he call him? A fascist. Basically said he was one step away from Hitler. Now, oh no, he's great. Because they've realised Trump is going to eat them for dinner. Trump, though, the Trump card we've got on Trump as a country is that Donald Trump loves Great Britain. He loves our royal family. His mum was born here. He's got a real soft touch for us, which is a good job after all the insults the stupid, lousy Labour government have given him, right? So hopefully he'll cut us a bit of slack. But I tell you something about Donald Trump. I think he loves Britain more than Keir Starmer loves Britain. Oh, Keir Starmer will stand in front of the Union flag and give it the big one. But does he really love Britain? When you think of some of his people in his government, or people he's made into dames, he didn't like the flag of St. George being flown during the football, did she? Do you remember? They're ashamed of our flag. They don't like the white British working class because we're all far right fascists in Keir Starmer's view of the world, whereas Donald Trump looks at the working classes, or the middle classes as they call them in America, as his allies. But it would appear that Starmer would like to alienate us and then re-educate us, like the commie he is, in believing in his woke view of the world. Well, he ain't going to get away with it, is he? Because 6 months in, he's the most unpopular prime minister ever. He needs to go and see Trump and get a bit of the stardust sprinkled on him. Maybe give himself a personality. I actually think that Trump loves Britain more than our prime minister. What a terrible thing to have to say. And then on top of that, of course, we're giving foreign aid all over the place, right? But not for our pensioners, not for our veterans. We're providing more homes. There's always, every time when you turn on the telly, another hotel's been taken over, or they're building more accommodation, but not for Brits. This is what's wrong. Trump wouldn't even discuss that. And then finally, on the postal votes and the gangs, the grooming gangs, there's a connection. There's a connection. Certain communities are being treated differently. And these gangs have only really happened, if we're honest about it, in predominantly Labour-held towns. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a disgrace that the Tories have been in power for 14 years and didn't get on top of the grooming gangs and all the other stuff and allowed the NHS to go the way it did. This country's in a complete and utter mess. And no wonder Starmer got elected. And no wonder he got a landslide, because people were voting for anything but the Conservatives. But it's going to get a rude awakening, because Nigel Farage, he came within a breath of beating Labour in the latest polls. And Farage is saying, look, I'll help you with Trump. I've got him on speed dial. I can sort it out. And I went to the last Trump inauguration, and I was at some of those parties where the impartial BBC uber liberals were getting pissed out of their heads on the free champagne. I saw them all, right? And what I also saw was how close even then Nigel Farage was to the MAGA bunch. Steve Bannon. Raheem Kassim was his ex-press man, who's now Steve Bannon's kind of right-hand guy. We could have a great relationship there. But Keir, I think he thinks he's as popular as Donald. Well, the truth is, Keir, in 6 months' time, Donald Trump won't be where you are in the polls. He'll be even higher, because he'd have created jobs. He'd have put the trade tariffs in. He would have ended the Ukraine war. He will have sorted out Hamas. He may well have bombed Iran back into the Stone Age. He will take on terrorism. He will protect his borders. He will make America great again, and he will be immensely popular. Whereas you, Sir Keir, well, hopefully you'll have crawled back under the stone from whence you came, but hopefully before that we'll have a full public inquiry, because that's your next move. You're going to have to give the inquiry to those victims, those survivors. So you're on borrowed time. Let me tell you, you are on borrowed time. You're on a warning, an official warning. And the deadbeats around you, the sixth formers around you, they better grow up quick. Otherwise, they're going to get eaten up by the Washington machine. And I really hope that Donald does not invite Sir Keir over until the last. Theresa May, when he got last elected, Theresa May was the first foreign leader to go over. I want it to be like when you're playing football and you're on Radford Common in Coventry, right? And they're going along the line to pick teams. Yeah, I'll have him. This is a Sean. What's his name? He's dead now. The Irish comedian. Anyway, Sean, whatever his name was, brilliant comedian, promoted him many times. But he had this joke. He said where they'd go along and he'd be standing there with his dog, and they'd go, Sean's dog, and they'd pick the dog before him. Well, it's a bit like that. I hope that Donald Trump has every leader over from the world before he actually invites Keir Starmer and then duffs him up. He deserves what's coming to him. Pity is it's got a knock-on effect to us. But I think Donald will make America great again. I think he will make the world a safer place. Oh, that was it. That's the only thing Laura Kuenssberg could say, which was almost impartial. She's, oh, yeah, because the thing with Trump is he's so unpredictable. And so people don't know what to do and how to handle him. And she saw that as a negative. No, that's a man having his own mind, Laura, and not going by the politically correct policy book that you have to live with. That's him deciding on the merits. They can't bear it. The uber liberals who infest the police, the civil service, the politics, everywhere, they can't bear the idea that a populist, that's another thing they hate. They put him down by calling him a populist. Well, doesn't that mean he's popular? Since when being popular has that been a problem? That's the same thing as well. Since when being, on the right? When did being right become wrong? It's a topsy-turvy world, my masters. Anyway, I'm going to stop there because I'm off out. So I hope you enjoyed it. Check me out on YouTube, John Gaunt TV, and check me out on Twitter and on Facebook. Don't forget it's John, Jongaunt. And if you like what I'm talking about, there's links on all my social media to a thing called Buy Me a Coffee. Feel free to click the button and donate anything from a £5 upwards. I was in the pub last night, as I say, early doors. I was back by 7 o'clock, and a guy came up to me and said, Gaunty, it's great to see you back on your feet. How do I do that coffee thing? Shall I just give you some money now? I said, no, I'll show you. I showed him on the phone. And you never guess what he did? 25 quid. He donated 25 quid. He says, more power to your elbow. I'll give you some more of that next month. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Mark. Nice guy. And I had another guy I've got to keep going to the pub. I had another guy in the pub the night before, Derek. He took the mickey, and then when he got home, he's probably 3 sheets to the wind by then, he whacked in 15 quid. It all helps. It all helps until we get adverts and we get fully monetized. But thanks very much for all of you for helping. And thanks also for all the positive comments. And like I say, if you've enjoyed this video, it doesn't cost you anything just to press like and share and get other people to watch it as well. All the best. Most important thing, of course, if you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey, don't forget to tell them you love them. See you soon. Bye.